Today I'm going to be trying out the Pizzazz Plus rotating pizza oven from Presto. When I came across these on Amazon, I was actually shocked at how good the reviews were on this product. I've never seen it before, but nearly every review was really good. Looking at this pizza oven, you kind of wonder how well it could possibly cook, being that about 80, maybe 85% of it's actually open. It kind of defies typical logic. When you think of heating something up, it needs to be in an enclosed area. So I really don't know. I'm anxious to try this out and see how well it works. And not only see how well it works, but see how fast it actually cooks. I really want to know if it's going to be able to cook anything faster than in a conventional oven. And in addition to pizza, it also says that it can cook a lot of convenience foods. It shows jalapeno poppers, quesadillas, egg rolls, hot pockets, and I'm going to try some other foods besides pizza just to see how well it does. So let's open the box up and see what's inside. Not a whole lot in the box. Another thing I wanted to show you is there is a cooking chart right here for pizza on the back of the main unit. I've got the pan for the Pizzazz Plus washed up and ready to go. It also says this thing will cook cookies, cinnamon rolls, and things like that. It'll cook 7 to 12-inch pizzas from frozen or take and bake and homemade pizzas. It does not need to be preheated. Earlier I was talking about how the open design kind of conflicts with the way that we think about heating up food. But it does say that the open design lets you see when your food is done or if you need to adjust the heat or the time. It also has lower and upper heating elements to let you adjust your upper and lower cooking temperature. So if you want a crispier crust, you can turn off the upper heating element and let the crust get a little crispier. First I'm going to cook a thin crust supreme pizza. Now I'm going to place the pan over the drive shaft right here. Now I'm going to plug it in. When you plug it in, it does immediately start turning. Although this pizza is a thin crust, there is no recommended setting for a thin crust. So I'm going to use the regular crust setting, which means I need to set the elements to dual and a recommended cooking time of 12 to 15 minutes. I'll put it for 12 minutes and see what it looks like. My timer just went off and I gotta say the pizza's looking pretty good. The top is done enough. The crust is actually crispy enough for me. Some people may like it a little crispier, but I think I'm happy with the 12 minutes for a regular or thin crust pizza. And it is a no stick surface, so it slid right off. I'm gonna cut this pizza and we'll have a look at the crust. This may not be as crisp as a lot of people like, and I actually prefer my crust this way. So I think I did a pretty good job on this pizza. Next, I'm going to cook a rising crust pizza, and for this one I'm also going to be using both the upper and lower elements, and the recommended cook time is 10 to 12 minutes. Since the recommended cooking time is 10 to 12 minutes, I'm going to go on the upper limit and cook this one for 12 minutes. After cooking for 12 minutes, the rising crust pizza isn't quite done enough. So I'll cook it for a few more minutes and let you know how long it took. Even after an additional 5 minutes, the rising crust still isn't quite ready. I checked the crust and it still has a little ways to go along with the top. So I'm gonna go ahead and cook it for probably another 5 minutes. All right, the timer just went off and it's been now a total of 20 minutes. And for the most part, the pizza's done. You can see right here on the center, the cheese isn't quite as dark as the rest of it. I don't really think that's much of an issue, but it seems like that's just one area that's not quite getting enough heat. I also wanted to note that unlike a conventional oven, when you turn it on to heat anything up, it'll really heat up the house. I'm only noticing about a foot out from the Pizzazz Plus that I feel any heat. It's really not a real intense heat, but you can feel it just about a foot out in all the directions. But if you back up a few feet, you don't really notice hardly any heat coming from the Pizzazz Plus. And I'm going to transfer this over to this cookie sheet. And just like last time, you saw that it slid right off, no sticking at all, even on the places where the cheese had melted over the side. Little time to cool off, And I can show you the crust, which for some reason has lots of cheese and pepperoni on it, but the crust actually came out pretty good. Other than the center, that was a little bit less cooked. I don't want to call it undercooked, but a little bit less cooked than the rest of it. But as an overall, I think it did pretty good, even on the rising crust pizza. Next, I'm going to try cooking a small pizza on here. The instructions say between a 7 and 12-inch pizza. This pizza actually measures just under 7 inches wide, but I'm going to see if it works. I think the best thing to do is to place it more to one side so that it gets underneath the heating elements a little better. I've been cooking this small pizza for about 17 minutes and it's still not done. So they do say a 7 to 12-inch pizza, but I'm pretty sure they mean round pizza. I think I'm going to try to go ahead and just put the pizza in the middle and see if that does any better. I wouldn't think it would, which is why I didn't do it in the first place, but I'm going to try it out and see how it works. I've got 21 minutes invested in this small pizza, and I think it's to the point of being cooked enough to eat it, but obviously 21 minutes to cook this little pizza is way too long. So I'm not sure if it was the way I placed it on the pan or if it's because it's square not round. I don't really know. But I will say that it doesn't appear, at least for me, to work very well for the small square. I say square, it's actually kind of rectangle, but a small squarish rectangle pizza. I think I'll stick with the round ones. Next, I'm going to try making a cheese quesadilla, and I'll be using just some flour tortillas, some cheddar cheese, and some of my leftover Taco Bell sauce. Now I'm going to sprinkle a little cheese on here, and I'll squirt on a little of my Taco Bell sauce. Finally, I'll finish it off with another tortilla. The recommended cooking time for quesadillas is 6 to 10 minutes, so I think I'll try 8 minutes. And I'll be using the lower and upper heating elements. Alright, let's see what 8 minutes cooking the quesadilla looks like. Oh yeah, it's super melty in there. Didn't get really dark or toasty how they look in the pan sometimes. There's a dark area right there. But it definitely firmed up some, so it's going to be a little crispy. Next, I'm going to try cooking some Bagel Bites. And it did mention that if you do cook something that has one of the crisper trays with it, don't use the tray. Just place them directly onto the Pizzazz Plus pan. The owner's manual says to cook Bagel Bites for 13 to 14 minutes and also use both the upper and lower heating elements. So I'm going to set the timer for 13 minutes. So I've let the Bagel Bites go for 13 minutes. And the cheese is not really melted like what you would normally think of when you cook these in a conventional oven, but they're definitely very hot. The bottom of the Bagel Bites is really firm and seems to be done. I don't know. I don't know if it's just because these aren't in a conventional oven that the cheese didn't really melt right. I'm going to cut into one real quick and make sure that it is done all the way through into the middle. Yeah, it's actually very hot in the middle. As a matter of fact, I need to put that down. So it's done. It's just the cheese doesn't look like we normally would think it would. Next, I'm going to be trying out some breaded boneless buffalo style chicken wings. These are fully cooked, and the owner's manual does say chicken wings that are pre-cooked. They recommend cooking the chicken wings for 18 to 20 minutes, and I'll be using both the upper and lower heating elements for these also. I'll go ahead and set this up to about 19 minutes. Alright, my wings, well, they may be done, I'm not sure yet. I'm going to go ahead and check just the internal temperature. As I said earlier, these are pre-cooked, so they really only need to be heated up. And kind of soggy there. I think that's just the breading. There is some black burnt stuff here on the bottom, which could very well be my fault for not really monitoring these things as well as I should. I kind of put it for the amount of time and left it. But yeah, it's hitting up about 170 degrees. So about 20 minutes for these. Again, the bottom's got a little of the black stuff on there, which, you know, maybe if I'd been watching them a little more, maybe I could have checked for that. But either way, I just know in the future, if I'm cooking something like this, to monitor it a little better. So I'm going to go ahead and pull these off. and I'm going to try something else. Now I'm going to try cooking some fish sticks and some mozzarella sticks. It doesn't specifically list fish sticks, but it does list fish fillets. And it says to cook those for 12 to 13 minutes. And it says to cook cheese sticks for 10 to 11 minutes. So I think I'll go probably about 12 minutes on this. And I do realize that maybe the fish sticks or maybe the mozzarella sticks will cook a little quicker than the other, probably the fish sticks. But either way, I'm going to watch it, and that way I can pull off whatever one gets done first. And I'll also be using the upper and lower heating elements for these also. So my camera decided to die right in the middle of me checking these mozzarella sticks. But anyway, these can actually go probably a little bit longer. I'm not going to cook them anymore. But the cheese did get somewhat melted in here. But I think it could have probably been melted just a little bit more with another minute or two. So I'm going to pull these off, and I've got one more thing that I'm going to try to cook. The last thing that I'm going to cook on the Pizzazz Plus are cinnamon rolls. For cinnamon rolls, it says to cook with the upper heating element for 3 minutes, and then both heating elements for 6 to 7 minutes. So this will be the first thing that I cook that I need to do any kind of adjustments on. Everything else was simply using both the upper and lower heating elements. It also says do not place cinnamon rolls in the middle of the pan, which I totally understand after trying to cook that small rectangular pizza. I'm going to set my switch to upper, and I'm going to cook them for 3 minutes. Also, anytime you're cooking less than 4 minutes, the instruction manual says to turn the timer past 4 and then back up to where you want it to be. It kind of has to go past that 4 and then back to be able to set it correctly. My timer just went off, so now I'll switch this back to dual heating elements. And I'm going to cook them for about 6 minutes. I don't want them to get too hard or dried out. The timer for my cinnamon rolls just went off, so let's check these out. They are a tiny bit doughy in the middle. I actually like them that way, and I tend to do the same thing even when I cook them in the oven. But I think if you wanted them a little firmer, another minute or two, and it would have completely did it. Squirt me some icing on here. Well, I was going to try to smear it a little bit, but doing this one-handed, not quite that easy. But nonetheless, you get the idea. My opinion of the Pizzazz Plus is really good. Something like this that you don't really think is going to work that good, but to be able to cook all the stuff that I cooked today, the pizza, the quesadillas, cheese sticks, fish sticks, cinnamon rolls, wings, this thing works really good. And this is one of those purchases that not only am I glad that I bought it, it's something that I'm going to use. But it cooks well, it cooks fairly quick. Everything came out at least as well as expected or better, with the exception of the one thing that I cooked on it that I don't think I was really supposed to cook. So this is a product that I would definitely recommend. That's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please leave a thumbs up and also consider subscribing to the channel. As always, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next video.